Book by Velimir Petković. All rights reserved. Enjoy. My theory of light and love. Love. What is love? Exploring the concept of love through philosophy, biology, and emotion. Purple color in the pupil. How light waves, especially violet, are reflected in the human pupil and what mental concept. Love as an essential force of the spirit. Light perception. The way the human eye receives and interprets light. Path of light. From source to eye, stars. How light is used to measure the universe and our place in it. Human existence. Metaphysics of existence. The question of why we exist through light and love as basic forces. Metaphysical combinations of human pairs. Human relations as spiritual formulas, meanings of encounters and connections. The meaning of being. Who we are, what we become, and how love and light shape our being. Black holes. The origin and evolution of black holes. Structure and physical properties of black holes. Interaction of black holes with light and matter. Observing and studying black holes. What is love? Philosophical, biological and emotional views on love. Philosophical view of love. The philosophy of love deals with its nature, its place in human life and its relationship to meaning and ethics. Ever since ancient Greece, philosophers have distinguished three basic forms of love: eros, philia and agape. Eros, it denotes passionate and lustful love, directed towards physical and emotional desire. Philia, it implies friendly love, reciprocity and respect, shaped by shared values and closeness. Agape is sublime, unconditional love, often understood as love that is given without any expectation in return. In the Symposium, Plato describes love as a path, from attraction to individual bodies, through love for souls and knowledge, to love for the very idea of beauty. Point 2. In this sense, eros is the initial spark that can lead a person to a higher, spiritual and intellectual form of love. Aristotle, on the other hand, points out that true love, friendship, arises when two people value each other not for benefit or pleasure, but because they are good in themselves. Contemporary philosophers ask additional questions. Is love an obligation or a free choice, a gift or the foundation of our moral life? Can love be reduced to a valuation, I love you because I find you valuable, or is it primarily an emotion with its own motivation and power? A broader question also opens up. Can love be rationally explained, or does the experience remain transcendent, beyond the limits of pure reason? A biological view. Hormones, the brain and evolution. While philosophy examines what love is, biology asks how it is possible. Contemporary researcher Helen Fisher distinguishes three biological systems of love: lust, attraction, and attachment. Lust is based on the hormones testosterone and estrogen and triggers sexual desire. Attractiveness is a state of romantic infatuation, in which dopamine dominates, excitement, reward, while serotonin decreases, obsessive thoughts, and adrenaline and norepinephrine cause excitement. Binding, it arises through the action of oxytocin and vasopressin, hormones that create a feeling of security, intimacy, and long-term commitment. Neurobiological studies show that love activates brain reward systems, ventral tegmental area, nucleus accumbens, while reducing activity in regions responsible for negative emotions and strictly rational judgments. Point 9. Evolutionarily, such mechanisms have helped humans form stable pairs and care for offspring. It is important to emphasize, however, Biology explains the mechanism, but not the meaning of love. Brain chemistry enables the experience of love, but does not determine its value and meaning. They also depend on reason, culture, and the spiritual horizon of a person. Emotional perspective, subjective experience. Unlike philosophy and biology, which offer objective models, the emotional perspective considers the internal experience of love. Psychologically, emotions contain three components. Assessment object, a loved one is perceived as valuable. Motivation, desire for care, intimacy, attention. Phenomenological feeling, warmth, joy, longing. 10. Love is not an isolated emotion but a complex combination of joy, tenderness, hope, but also fear of loss or sadness due to separation. Some authors describe it as an emotional attitude, a lasting way in which we relate to another being. 11. The more recent term karma mutta, from Sanskrit, touched by love, describes a short-term experience of strong connection and touch, which manifests itself through physical sensations such as tears, warmth in the chest or tingling of the skin. 12. Also, the affection exchange theory emphasizes that expressing love, touch, hugs, words, has an adaptive function. It strengthens social connections, reduces stress, and has a positive impact on mental and physical health. 13. Synthesis, towards a unified view. Neither the philosophical, biological, nor emotional approaches alone provide a complete picture. Only together do they reveal that love is simultaneously an idea, a mechanism, and an experience. Philosophical view analyzes its meanings, values, and ethical dimension. Biological view shows how love arises in the body and brain, and why it is important for the survival of the species. Emotional view illuminates its experience in our inner reality. In the context of your book, A Theory of Light and Love, this threefold analysis can serve as a foundation for the idea that love is not just a feeling or a metaphor, but a bridge between light, knowledge, transformation, and the human heart. Love, like light, simultaneously illuminates, unites, and warms. Purple color in the pupil. There is a moment when a person looks into the eyes of another being and sees in him more than a reflection of their own image. In the pupil, the dark circle that holds the secret of inner worlds, a color can appear that is not only a physical experience but also a symbol. Among all the colors known to the eye, purple has a special status. It is created by the union of warm red and cold blue, passion and calm, fire and ice. In the pupil, it does not appear literally, but as a metaphor for the inner world, a sign that love and light create a bridge between the material and the spiritual. The pupil is a mirror of the inner world. The pupil is the physiological window to the eye, but symbolically, it is the door to the soul. When we look into someone's eyes, we instinctively seek a spark, that elusive point where the world and the inner self meet. In this regard, the color purple is not a pigment, but an inner glow that marks transformation. In philosophical traditions, the eyes are often seen as the seat of truth. Plato says in Alcibiades that when we look into the pupil of another, we are actually looking at our own image. This leads us to the idea that love, in its deepest form, is precisely the recognition of oneself in another. The purple color in the pupil is a metaphor for this recognition. It occurs when two realities, two worlds, find a common tone. Purple between the spiritual and the physical. Purple is the color of paradox. It was created from the meeting of red, the color of blood, life, passion, and blue, the color of the sky, calm and transcendence. There is always a tension between the earthly and the divine. When we imagine purple in the pupil, it does not only mean an aesthetic experience. It indicates a state when a person is not torn between body and spirit, but accepts both and unites them into one whole. Love in this sense becomes purple, passionate enough to feel the warmth of the other, but also calm enough not to get lost in selfishness. Many spiritual traditions associate this color with higher consciousness. In Hinduism and Tantric yoga, purple and indigo correspond to the higher chakras, Ajna, third eye, and Sahasrara, crown chakra. They symbolize penetrating through illusion and opening to unity with the whole. If the pupil becomes a symbol of this inner window, then purple in it signifies the awakening of higher vision, one that does not look only at external forms but penetrates into the essence of being. Psychological dimension, the color of feelings. Color psychology suggests that purple evokes feelings of sublimity, introspection, and spiritual peace. It's no coincidence that it was often worn by rulers and priests throughout history, not for its luxury, but for its symbolic meaning of power and holiness. In love, purple becomes the color of transcendental tenderness. It goes beyond mere liking or passionate lust. Purple love is one in which the partner is not seen simply as an object of desire, but as a being with an inner light. When someone says that they have seen something in the eyes of their loved one that they have never seen before, it is precisely this color, not physical, but symbolic, that they recognize. Purple as light alchemy. If we look at light as a metaphor for knowledge, love, and truth, then the color purple is its particular expression. It arises from the merging of the farthest extremes of the spectrum, almost as if the light itself transforms itself into something that the human eye can barely comprehend. In the pupil, purple becomes a sign of inner alchemy, the process in which the soul changes its composition. Just as alchemists once sought the philosopher's stone to transform lead into gold, so too, through love and encounter with another, a person transforms their inner darkness into light. The purple pupil is a symbol of that moment, the moment when we are no longer the same, because the gaze of another has changed us. Love and transcendence in the eye. One of the key questions of the philosophy of love is, does love have only an earthly meaning, or does it connect us to something higher? If eros leads from the body to the idea, and agape from the idea to unconditionality, then the purple color in the pupil connects those two directions. It is the color of the bridge. Love, when it turns purple, goes beyond mere infatuation. It then encompasses both eros and agape, passion and compassion, desire and devotion. In this sense, the pupil illuminated by the purple glow does not belong only to the eye of one person, but to the eye of the universe that sees itself through us. Scientific and metaphorical aspect. If we were to speak strictly scientifically, we cannot see the color purple in the pupil. The pupil is the opening in the eye, and what we see is the reflection of light and the iris around it. However, this very impossibility makes the metaphor more powerful. The purple in the pupil does not exist in a material sense, but it exists in the experience, in the inner sight of man. Neuropsychology shows us that emotions can alter color perception. People in love often report that the world is brighter, the colors more intense, the eyes of their loved one deeper and warmer. This is proof that the purple pupil does not belong to objective reality, but to subjective reality, which is equally real to humans. Purple and the theory of light and love. In your book, the purple pupil can be understood as a symbol of the union of light and love. Light brings clarity, knowledge, transformation. Love brings warmth, connection, and meaning. When they meet, a new quality emerges, a color that transcends the boundaries of the ordinary spectrum. The purple in the pupil is a metaphor for the moment when one stops looking at the outside and begins to see the inner light of another. It is the moment when love becomes vision, and vision becomes love. In it, the distinction between looking and seeing, between the eye and the soul, is abolished. Conclusion. The purple color in the pupil is not an aesthetic image, but a philosophical and spiritual symbol. It shows how love changes our perspective and how light changes our vision. When imagined in the pupil, this color reminds us that love is not just a feeling or a reaction, but a process of inner transformation. Looking at the purple pupil of another, we are actually looking at our own possibility of being transformed. In this regard, love and light come together. Love opens us, and light guides us. Together, they leave a mark in the eye, in the pupil, in the very center of being, a mark that is purple, because it carries within it both passion and peace, both earth and sky, both man and eternity. Love as a mental concept. Love as an inner state of being. When we talk about love, we often identify it with an emotion, an experience, or a relationship. But when we view it as a mental concept, it ceases to be just a feeling that occurs in certain situations and becomes a permanent dimension of the spirit. The soul is not a space of fleeting impressions, but the foundation on which a person's identity is shaped. Love, on this level, is not a changing mood that comes and goes, but a principle that permeates all that a person is. While emotions oscillate, soulful love remains as a calm current that gives meaning to life. It cannot be fully explained by physiological processes or social conventions, because it carries within itself the character of the eternal. Love is here the bridge between the inner and outer world. It is what allows a person to recognize himself in another, to transcend selfishness and to enter into a true community of beings. Love as an essential force of the spirit. If we view the spirit as the core of human existence, that part of being that is not tied to the transitory circumstances of the body, but to lasting values, then love is revealed as its driving force. In the philosophical tradition, Hegel said that the spirit strives to overcome the division between subject and object, between self and other. Love, as a force of the spirit, accomplishes just that. It abolishes the boundary and creates unity. When we love, we cease to exist only for ourselves and open up a space in which the other becomes a part of us. This is not just a psychological phenomenon, but an ontological transformation. The spirit expands and transcends the limits of the individual. Love, understood in this way, becomes a force that leads to wholeness. In this sense, it is not just a human emotion but a cosmic principle. Just as gravity attracts bodies in the physical universe, so love attracts souls and spirits, connecting them into a single web of existence. Transition from the physical to the metaphysical. When we look at love only on the physical plane, it expresses itself through touch, attraction, and emotion. But when it moves into the metaphysical dimension, love becomes truth, the way the universe speaks through us. Metaphysical love is not directed only at a person, but at existence as a whole. This does not mean that personal relationships are lost, but that through them a broader truth is revealed. To love one being is to participate in a love that encompasses all. In religious traditions, this is expressed by the concept of agape, unconditional love. But outside of religion, in philosophy, it also appears as the idea that love has the power to overcome utilitarian motives and become an end in itself. At this level, love is not just mine or yours. It is a force that transcends us and to which we belong. In this sense, metaphysical love is both personal and universal. It emanates from me, but it is not limited to me. Love and the concept of freedom. Love as a mental concept is closely related to freedom. Love cannot be imposed. It arises only at the moment when the spirit freely decides to open itself. But the paradox is that this freedom does not mean isolation. On the contrary, love is an act of free attachment. It is not an obligation imposed by external society, nor a mere reaction of the body, but a conscious decision of the spirit to find its own truth in another. In this sense, love and freedom are not opposites. Love is the highest expression of freedom. It is the decision to stop being closed in ourselves and to open space for communion. Love as a transformation of being. Every authentic experience of love changes a person. Love is not static. It does not leave a being as it was. When a person loves, they change in ways that go beyond the physical. Biology can describe hormonal changes, psychology can analyze emotional patterns, but soulful love changes the very structure of a being. It opens it up, expands its boundaries, and directs it towards a higher meaning. In this process, love acts as a spiritual teacher. It teaches us patience, humility, and compassion. It teaches us that the world is not a place of self-sufficient individuals, but a network of connected souls. Every love, both the one that lasts and the one that fades, leaves a mark on the soul and leads it to a greater understanding of life. Love and transcendence. Love is a force of the spirit that opens the door to transcendence. When we love, we feel that we are part of something greater. This feeling cannot be reduced to logic or material interest. In love, one experiences what mystics would call unity. The boundary between I and you begins to blur. But this unity is not the annulment of difference, but its overcoming. Both beings remain what they are, but in love they feel themselves part of the same whole. This experience of transcendence is why love is so often associated with religious or spiritual language. It is, in its own way, a sacred experience, because it shows man that life is not confined within the boundaries of matter. Love as the spiritual axis of the world. If we were to imagine a world without love, it would be a collection of disconnected fragments. Love is what connects. It functions not only in relationships between people, but also in the way a person views nature, art, truth. When philosophers speak of the love of wisdom, philosophia, they are not referring to a fleeting emotion, but to the basic aspiration of the spirit to unite with what is true and good. In this way, love becomes the axis around which the whole spiritual life revolves. Without it, every search for truth would be dry, every community empty, every art devoid of inspiration. Love is a force that not only gives meaning to human life, but also maintains the world as a whole as a single network. Conclusion: love as a metaphysical energy of the spirit. When we understand love as a spiritual concept, we discover that it is not just one of the human feelings, but an essential force of the spirit. It transcends the physical, transcends the boundaries of the psychological, and enters the metaphysical, a space in which man becomes part of the eternal flow of existence. In love, man finds freedom and transcendence, but also responsibility. She teaches him that life is not closed in the ego, but open to the other and to the universe. Love, as a force of spirit, is the energy that makes everything that exists make sense. Without it, the world would be a cold structure, and human existence would be nothing more than a random collection of instincts. With it, the world becomes a place where the spirit reveals itself in its highest power, in its ability to create unity, to transcend boundaries, and to find light in everything. Light perception. The way the human eye receives and interprets light. Human existence cannot be imagined without light. It is not only a physical phenomenon, a wave of a certain frequency in the electromagnetic spectrum, but also the foundation of our perception, inner orientation, and spiritual meaning of the world. Light is at the same time an external condition for vision and an internal metaphor for truth, clarity, and cognition. Understanding how the human eye receives and interprets light opens the door to a deeper understanding of human nature, not only physical, but also spiritual. The path of light to the eye. Light travels at incredible speeds, almost 300,000 kilometers per second, and each of its photons carries energy and information. When that photon reaches the human eye, one of the most complex processes in nature begins: the transformation of energy into experience. The first contact of light with the body occurs on the cornea, the transparent membrane that covers the front of the eye. The cornea is like a window through which light enters the inner space of the human eye. After the cornea, light passes through the pupil, the diameter of which changes depending on the amount of light in the environment. In the dark, the pupil dilates, letting in more photons, while in bright sunlight it narrows to protect the internal structures. The lens, an elastic transparent structure, has the task of precisely focusing light rays onto the retina. This is where we come to the key point. The retina is not a passive screen, but an active sensor that converts light stimuli into electrical impulses. There are two types of photoreceptors on the retina: rods and cones. Rods allow the perception of light intensity and dark shades, while cones recognize colors. Cones are divided into three types: sensitive to red, green, and blue light. The combination of their reactions creates the entire spectrum of colors that the human eye can distinguish. When light hits the photoreceptors, it triggers a chemical change in the cell's pigments, which causes an electrical signal to be generated. These signals then pass through the layers of interneuron connections of the retina, where the first image processing already takes place. Only then does the information travel through the optic nerve to the brain. The brain, the creator of the image. Interestingly, the human eye does not see an image as it is. The eye only collects light stimuli, while the brain translates them into a visual experience. The signal from the retina reaches the primary visual cortex in the occipital lobe of the brain, where the distribution of light, contrasts, shapes and movements are analyzed. The brain reconstructs reality on the fly, combining raw information with previous experiences, memories, and expectations. For example, when we see a shadow, the brain automatically adds the dimension of depth, even though there is only a flat image on the retina. This leads us to an important realization. The perception of light is not a mere passive reception of information, but an active process of creation. Man, through his nervous system, is constantly building the world he perceives. In this sense, light is merely the material from which consciousness creates an internal universe. The limits of human perception. It's important to note that the human eye can only detect a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, between about 380 and 740 nanometers in wavelength. Below that range are ultraviolet rays, above infrared rays, and beyond that are a whole range of waves we never see: microwaves, radio waves, X-rays. So what we call visible light is only a narrow window into infinite reality. Our experience of the world is shaped by the limitations of the eye and the brain. Man is, in a sense, a prisoner of his visual apparatus, but at the same time a creator of rich inner meaning from these fragments. This realization leads to a philosophical insight. What we see is not necessarily all that exists. Our perception of light is selective, and behind it lies a wider, elusive reality. Light, therefore, reveals and hides at the same time. The psychological and emotional dimension of light. Light not only affects our physical ability to see, but also shapes our mood, inner life, and symbolic representations. Science shows that the amount of daylight directly affects the secretion of the hormones melatonin and serotonin, which determine our alertness and emotional state. A lack of light can cause melancholy and sadness, while an abundance of sunlight awakens energy and a sense of vitality. In art, literature, and religion, light is an almost universal symbol of goodness, truth, and hope. We associate dark scenes with fear and uncertainty, while we invoke light as a metaphor for revelation and liberation. Even in everyday speech, we use expressions like to see the light, to shed light on the truth, to be illuminated by an idea. This teaches us that the perception of light is not just a biological act, but also a cultural, spiritual, and emotional phenomenon. The eye doesn't just see shapes, it sees meaning. Light as a bridge between material and spiritual. If we view light only as a physical phenomenon, we risk overlooking its broader meaning. Light is, in its essence, a mediator between matter and consciousness. It is a physical wave that becomes a psychic experience, an energy that crosses the threshold of consciousness and becomes meaning. In the philosophy of many traditions, light is understood as a symbol of spiritual awakening. Plato, in the allegory of the cave, described how man emerges from the darkness of ignorance into the light of truth. In the Christian tradition, God is often described as the light of the world. In Eastern teachings, meditation is associated with the inner light. The fact that our vision functions precisely through light, and not some other form of energy, reminds us that we are beings who are oriented towards light from the very beginning. Our physiology and our spirit point to the same thing. Man was created to seek light and to find meaning in it. The mystery of visual consciousness. In the end, one of the biggest questions remains: how does a series of electrical impulses become the living experience of an image? Science can trace the path of photons from the cornea to the brain, but the moment when an electrical signal becomes consciousness of color, shape, or movement remains a mystery. This leap from the material to the phenomenal remains unexplained. This mystery suggests that the perception of light transcends the boundaries of pure biology. It is a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, between body and spirit. In this sense, the perception of light is one of the most sacred experiences of man, proof that reality is not just matter, but also experience, meaning, inner presence. Conclusion. The way the human eye receives and interprets light reveals the complexity of the human being. The eye does not simply register photons, but opens the door to a world of meaning. The brain does not just assemble images, but creates an inner reality. Man does not only see colors and shapes, but through light he also recognizes his own being, his mood, his spiritual aspirations. Therefore, the perception of light is not only a physiological act, but also a metaphysical experience. It combines natural laws and inner freedom, matter and spirit, the objective world and subjective experience. The light that enters the pupil does not end in the eye, it is transformed into an inner landscape, into meaning, into sense. Light gives us the power to see the outer world, but more than that, it teaches us how to see the inner. Path of light. From source to eye, how light traverses space and time. Introduction. Light is one of the deepest wonders of existence. It is at once physical energy, wave and particle, but also a symbol of truth, revelation and knowledge. Our perception of the world is based on light. Without it we would be trapped in darkness, deprived of color, shape and sense of space. But the journey of light is not just a mechanical journey from point A to point B, it is a story of the movement of energy through space and time, of a transformation that begins in the heart of the stars and ends in human consciousness. From the moment a photon is released from its source to the moment it becomes part of the inner landscape of the human mind, light undergoes a series of processes. It travels cosmic distances, is refracted, scattered, and filtered, until it finally finds its refuge in the eye. Only then, through the delicate cooperation of body and consciousness, does light acquire its final meaning. It becomes sight, it becomes image, it becomes sensation. This chapter is dedicated to this fascinating journey. From the source of light, through its journey through space and the atmosphere, to the moment when it enters the human eye and is transformed into an image. But more than just a physical description, we will also look at the symbolic dimension. What does this journey mean? Why does light occupy a place in human culture as a symbol of life, hope, and enlightenment? Light sources, cosmic and terrestrial. The first step in the path of light is its source. The largest and most important to man is the sun. In its glowing core, through the process of nuclear fusion, hydrogen is converted into helium, releasing enormous amounts of energy. Some of this energy manifests as light, which takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. When we look up at the sky, we are actually looking at a continuous process of releasing light from the heart of our star. But the sun is not the only source. The night sky is illuminated by billions of other stars, whose light travels thousands, millions, and even billions of years before reaching our eyes. When we look at a distant galaxy, we are actually looking into the past, because the light that reaches us is a testament to events that happened many centuries ago. On Earth, man has learned throughout history to create his own sources of light, from the primitive flame of fire, through torches and oil lamps, to the light bulbs and laser beams of modern times. Each of these sources is part of the same universal story, the story of the release of energy in the form of photons. In philosophy and religion, the source of light is often identified with the source of truth. God, a cosmic force, or inner enlightenment, all of these are images of a source that illuminates and reveals. Just as the flame of a candle dispels the darkness in a room, so the inner light of knowledge illuminates the darkness of ignorance in the human soul. The nature of light, wave and particle. To understand the path of light, we must understand its nature. Science has shown that light has a dual character. It is both a wave and a particle. As an electromagnetic wave, it propagates through a vacuum, carrying energy. As a particle, light consists of photons, quanta of energy that can excite an electron, cause a chemical reaction or transmit information. This paradox of the wave-particle nature of light reminds us of the limits of human understanding. What seems like a contradiction to us is actually evidence of the complexity of reality. Light refuses to be classified into simple categories. It is a bridge between concepts, a phenomenon that constantly reminds us that the world is not one-dimensional, but multi-layered. Travel through space and time. Once it leaves its source, light begins its journey. The speed of light, almost 300,000 kilometers per second, is a universal constant, the limit of nature. Thanks to this speed, light becomes the foundation of relativity. According to Einstein's theory, nothing can travel faster, and space and time themselves are shaped by its motion. But the path of light is not always straight and simple. It can be reflected, bounced off surfaces, refracted, bent through different materials, or absorbed, converted into heat and other forms of energy. It can also be scattered, which explains why the sky is blue and the sunset is red. Every moment in nature in which we see color, reflection or play of light is the result of these interactions. A sunset, a rainbow after rain, the northern lights. All of these are sights that remind us that the path of light is a continuous creative process. Light does not just travel through space, but shapes our experience of the world around us. The atmosphere is a filter and guardian. When light reaches Earth, it encounters the atmosphere, a thin layer of gases that protects our planet. The atmosphere filters out harmful rays, such as ultraviolet, while allowing wavelengths that support life to pass through. Rayleigh scattering explains the blueness of the sky. Shorter wavelengths, blue and violet, are scattered more than longer wavelengths, red, which is why our eyes see the sky as blue during the day. Without the atmosphere, the Earth would be exposed to deadly radiation, and life as we know it would not be possible. The atmosphere is, therefore, the mediator that shapes light and makes it suitable for our eyes and our consciousness. Entering the human eye. After traversing space and the atmosphere, light enters the human eye. The cornea and pupil receive the rays and direct them towards the lens, which focuses them on the retina. There, in the photoreceptors, rods and cones, the light is converted into electrical signals. Rods enable vision in the dark, while cones recognize colors. 3 types of cones, red, green and blue, combine their reactions to create a spectrum of colors. This process, although physiological, already carries a metaphysical meaning. From abstract waves and photons, light is transformed into the concrete sensation of color, into a visual experience that shapes our world. The way through the brain, from signal to image. What the eye receives is not yet an image. It is only when electrical impulses pass through the optic nerve and reach the brain that reconstruction begins. In the visual cortex, the brain assembles fragments into a whole. Shape, movement, depth, and color. In this way, the visual world that we perceive is created. But herein lies the greatest mystery. How does a photon, a tiny quantum of energy, become a sensation of color or shape? How does a wavelength of 500 nanometers become a sensation of green? Science can follow the impulses, but it cannot explain the leap from the material to the conscious. That moment remains a mystery, proof that light is not just a physical phenomenon, but also a metaphysical bridge. Philosophy of the path of light. The path of light from source to eye is a metaphor for the human search for truth. Just as a photon travels through the cosmos to reach the eye, so too does man travel through darkness to reach the light of knowledge. In Plato's allegory of the cave, the emergence from darkness into light symbolizes the awakening of consciousness. In Christianity, light is a divine force, the light of the world. In Buddhism, inner enlightenment is described as the experience of light. Light is not just energy, it is a sign, a metaphor, and a calling. Its journey through space and time reminds us of our own journey through life, from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. Conclusion. The path of light from its source to the eye is not just a physical process, it is a story about the connection between the cosmos and man. The light that originates in the heart of stars travels for billions of years, crosses the vastness of space, passes through the atmosphere and enters the pupil. There it is transformed into an electrical impulse, and then into an image, a feeling, a meaning. Man carries the universe in his eye. Every glance at the starry sky reminds us that the light that touches us has traveled unimaginable distances and time to become part of our consciousness. In this sense, the perception of light is not just sight. It is the meeting of the universe and the spirit, the cosmos and man. Speed of light and distance of stars. How light is used to measure the universe and our place in it. Introduction. When we look up at the night sky, what we actually see is not the present. Every star we observe tells a story about the past. Some of them are so distant that their light travels thousands or millions of years before it reaches our retinas. This means that when we look up at the sky, we are actually looking at the history of the cosmos. Frozen moments in time that are only now becoming part of our consciousness. Herein lies one of the most profound discoveries of human thought. Light is not only physical energy traveling through space, but also a measure of time and space. Thanks to its extremely precise and universal speed, it becomes the basis for our understanding of distance, age, and structure of the universe. To understand where we are in the cosmos, we need to understand the speed of light and the ways in which it becomes our cosmic meter. The speed of light, the foundation of cosmic measurement. The speed of light in a vacuum, denoted by the letter c, is one of the most important physical constants. C is approximately 299,792,458 meters per second. It is the limit of nature, the highest possible speed at which information or energy can move. That is why light has become the universal ruler by which we measure the universe. When we say that a star is 10 light years away, it means that light, traveling at speed c, took 10 years to cover the distance between it and us. So distance is expressed in time, and time becomes a measure of space. How light reveals the distance of stars. There are several methods by which astronomers measure distances. Parallax, observing the shifting positions of nearby stars relative to a distant background as the Earth moves around the Sun. The formula for parallax. D is equal to 1 divided by P, where D is the distance in parsecs, and at is the angular parallax in arcseconds. For example, a star with a parallax of 0.1 inches is 10 parsecs away, about 32.6 light years. Standard candles, using objects of known brightness, such as Cepheids or Type Ia supernovae. If we know the absolute magnitude, m, of a star, and measure its apparent magnitude, m, the distance is obtained from the distance modulus, where d is the distance in parsecs. The difference between m small and m big is equal to 5 times the base 10 logarithm of d minus 5. Redshift, for very distant galaxies, their light is stretched due to the expansion of space. The relationship between the z-shift and distance depends on the cosmological model, but for small z the approximation is, and then via Hubble's law, where h0 is the Hubble constant. The recession velocity v is equal to the speed of light c times the redshift z. The recession velocity v is equal to Hubble's constant h0 times the distance d. Parallax, the first measure of the universe. One of the most basic, yet fascinating, methods for measuring the distance of stars is geometric parallax. The principle is intuitive and easily related to everyday experience. When we close one eye and move our head, closer objects appear to move relative to more distant ones. Astronomers have devised an analogous method for stars. By observing a star from 2 opposite positions of the Earth in its orbit, usually 6 months apart, a slight shift is observed relative to the distant background galaxies. This shift, expressed in arcseconds, is called parallax. The formula for calculating distance is elegant and simple. D is equal to 1 divided by P, where D is the distance in parsecs and a sub P is the parallax in arcseconds. This relationship defines a parsec, the distance at which the parallax is 1 second. 1 parsec is approximately 3.26 light years, which immediately gives us a sense of the vast distances we are talking about. The first successful measurements of parallax were made in the 19th century for the nearest stars, such as Vega and Sirius. Using telescopes with fine optics and precise angle measuring instruments, astronomers were able to determine the distances to stars hundreds of light years away. This was the first concrete evidence that the universe was not limited to the solar system, but extended over vast distances. Today, thanks to space missions such as Hipparcos and Gaia, parallax is measured with millisecond precision. Gaia has made it possible to determine the parallaxes of more than 1 billion stars in our galaxy, opening up a whole new dimension of the cosmic map. When we combine these precise distances with observations of variable stars, we get the basis for measuring the distances to more distant galaxies and the cosmic scale of the universe. Parallax is not just a mathematical exercise, it is also a philosophical lesson. When we look at the nearest stars, we realize that what we see is not a snapshot in time, but light that has traveled for decades, even centuries. This teaches us about the relativity of time and how our view of the universe always carries traces of the past. Another fascinating application of parallax is astrometry, the precise determination of the positions of stars and their tracking over time. Parallax observations allow not only the measurement of distances, but also the study of the motion of stars, the dynamics of galaxies, and even the discovery of planets around other stars. Any change in position can reveal gravitational interactions that are otherwise invisible. In practical work with parallax, astronomers must take into account a number of factors: atmospheric turbulence, the quality of the optics, systematic errors of the instruments, and the calibration of the coordinate system. When observations are combined over multiple epochs, it is possible to reduce the errors and obtain precise values. Mathematically, the precision of the distance depends on the angular accuracy of the measurement. The uncertainty in distance, sigma d, is equal to the uncertainty in parallax, sigma p, divided by the square of the parallax p, where sigma p, sigma_p sigma p represents the uncertainty in the parallax measurement. This shows that the farther away a star is, the less parallax we have, and the uncertainty increases proportionally. Therefore, parallax works best for relatively close stars, up to a few hundred parsecs, while for more distant stars we turn to other methods of measuring distance. Parallax, then, lays the foundation for cosmic distance, but also philosophically. When we look at light that has traveled for centuries, we observe the history of the universe. We understand the transience and vastness of time and space. Every photon that comes from a distant star carries with it the story of the star's birth, evolution, and perhaps disappearance. Standard candles, light as a cosmic meter. For more distant stars, the parallax becomes too small to measure. Then astronomers use so-called standard candles, objects of known intrinsic brightness. If we know the absolute magnitude, m, and observe the apparent magnitude, m, the distance is obtained via the distance modulus. The difference between apparent magnitude m and absolute magnitude m is equal to 5 times the base 10 logarithm of the distance d, minus 5. Example, a Cepheid with absolute magnitude minus 4, visible as +6, is located about 1,000 parsecs away. Type Ia supernovae, due to their uniform explosion, serve as standard candles even in distant galaxies, allowing distances up to billions of light years to be measured. Standard candles connect local and cosmological distances, revealing the expansion and acceleration of the universe, key to understanding dark energy. Studying the light curves of Cepheids allows calculations of periods and average luminosities, while supernovae provide an instant insight into distances. Philosophically, looking at the light of a standard candle is like observing an event that happened thousands or millions of years ago. Thus, light becomes a clock of the past and reminds us of the relativity of time in the universe. Redshift and Hubble's law. For very distant galaxies, the light is shifted towards the red end of the spectrum due to the expansion of the universe. If the wavelength of the emitted light is the original wavelength, and the measured wavelength is wavelength, the redshift is Z is equal to lambda minus lambda naught, divided by lambda naught. Distance speed. The recession velocity v is equal to the speed of light c times the redshift z. Hubble's law relates speed and distance. The recession velocity v of a galaxy is equal to Hubble's constant h0 times its distance d. This shows that more distant galaxies are moving away from us faster, confirming the expansion of the universe. Philosophically, the light we see today from distant galaxies has actually traveled for billions of years, carrying the history of the universe. Mathematical formulas for magnitudes and flux. Astronomy uses a logarithmic system of magnitudes. The apparent magnitude m is equal to minus 2.5 times the logarithm base 10 of the flux f, plus a constant c. Brightness ratio between two observations. The ratio of fluxes f2 to f1 is equal to 10 to the power of negative 0.4 times the difference in magnitudes, delta m. A magnitude change of +1 means a flux drop of approximately 60%. Precise calculations allow astronomers to quantify light curves and long-term changes in the brightness of stars. Example: Betelgeuse and the question of existence. The star Betelgeuse is about 642 light years away. The light we see left the star in the 14th century, when the first universities were just emerging on Earth. If Betelgeuse had exploded today, we would only know about it centuries later. Astronomy confronts us with the paradox of time. We are looking at the light of a star that may no longer exist. Selecting a star and data source. Stars known for their brightness changes, Cepheids, pulsing star, Mira, RR Lyrae variables, are selected for analysis. Sources: AAVSO, Gaia, Kepler, K2, TESS, photographic plate archives, local observatories. Data include timestamps, JD, MJD, magnitude, filter, and uncertainty. Combining data across decades creates continuity. Cleaning and standardization of data. Data are grouped by filters, outliers and systematic errors are removed, and atmospheric extinction is corrected. A unique magnitude system is used for analyses, and the statistical model includes regression, uncertainty weighting, and robust methods. Light curve analysis. The light curve shows the dependence of magnitude on time. The long-term trend is analyzed by changing average magnitudes. The difference in magnitudes, delta m, is the apparent magnitude m2 minus m1. The ratio of fluxes F2 to F1 is 10 to the power of negative 0.4 times the magnitude difference delta m. Example, delta m equals 0.5 right pointing arrow flux drop approximately 36.9%. Lone Scargill periodogram reveals periodic variations. Control stars check for systematic errors. Conclusion: light as a bridge between time and space. Light is not only energy, but also a cosmic mirror. By looking at distant stars, we are looking into the past. The speed of light connects space and time, and light curves reveal the evolution of stars. Every star is a story, every photon is time frozen in motion. Astronomy combines science and philosophy. Light is a bridge between the present moment and centuries past. Chapter 3: Human Existence. Metaphysics of existence, the question of why we exist through light and love as basic forces. The existence of man, the very act of being, has always been the subject of philosophical, scientific and spiritual debate. The question of why do we exist is not just an abstract thought exercise. It is the core of human experience, the place where rational reason, intuition and emotional experience of the world meet. When we observe human existence through the prism of light and love, a layered metaphysics opens up that connects the material and the spiritual, the physical and the metaphysical, the molecular and the cosmic. Light, in its most fundamental form, symbolizes both material energy and the symbolic principle of knowledge and existence. In physics, light is an electromagnetic wave, quantized into photons, that travels through space-time at a speed of c equals 299,792,458 meters per second. It is the carrier of information from the past of the universe, a signal that reaches our senses and enables us to perceive the world. But in a metaphysical sense, light is a symbol of truth and clarity, the energy that reveals and defines reality. Without light, both physical and internal, man would be unable to know either the external world or the inner self. Love, on the other hand, acts as an essential force of the spirit. While light enables perception, love enables appreciation and bonding, connecting with other beings and with oneself. From a philosophical perspective, eros, philia and agape symbolize different dimensions of this energy: passionate, friendly and unconditional love. Biologically, these forms of love are grounded in the brain through the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin and vasopressin systems, which shows that even at the level of matter, love has a functional and evolutionary purpose. Emotionally, love creates a phenomenological experience of connection, warmth, security and transformation. Combining these aspects, the metaphysics of existence can be seen as the interaction of light and love. Light reveals, provides knowledge and perception. Love unites, connects and directs the energy of being towards something greater than the individual self. Human life then becomes a continuum in which the physical, emotional and spiritual are interwoven, and every decision, every act and every emotion reflects this interaction. Philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle emphasized that love has a teleological purpose, To love means to strive for something higher, valuable in itself. Plato describes the path from physical love to love for the idea of beauty, while Aristotle sees true friendship as a mutual appreciation of the good qualities of another. If we translate this into a metaphysical context, we can say that human existence is not just a physical presence in space, but also a constant striving towards connection and understanding, through light, knowledge, perception, and love, valuation, connection. On an emotional level, the phenomenon of karma mutta describes how love causes physical and psychological reactions, tears, warmth, goosebumps, and further confirms that love is not an abstract concept, but a real process of transformation of internal energy. Light, which enables the perception of the world and ourselves, combined with love, becomes the driver of self-awareness and introspective reflection. Every emotion, every thought, every act of being is reflected through the prism of these two forces. In this sense, the question, why do we exist, receives a multi-dimensional answer. We exist to illuminate the world with our own understanding, to connect others and ourselves with love, to integrate the material and the spiritual into a single synthesis. The metaphysics of existence becomes practical. Existence is not passive, but active. Light directs us towards knowledge, love directs us towards meaning. Throughout the centuries, mystics and philosophers have used metaphors of light and love to describe the purpose of human existence. Light as a symbol of knowledge and enlightenment leads to understanding of the universe and oneself. Love as a connecting principle enables ethical, moral, and spiritual formation. The human being is unique because he carries within himself the ability to integrate these forces, to build meaning, transform himself and leave a mark in space and time through perception and emotional experience. All of this shows that the metaphysics of existence need not be distant or abstract. It manifests itself in every act of perception and love, in every encounter with light and other people. Love and light, together, define not only why we exist, but also how our lives become meaningful, through experience, cognition, transformation, and connection with the universe. Metaphysical combinations of human couples, human relationships as spiritual formulas. Human relationships represent one of the most intriguing fields in understanding existence. Every encounter, every interaction between people carries the potential for transformation, not only emotional, but also metaphysical. When we look at human couples through the prism of light and love, we discover that their connection functions as a spiritual formula, integrating the physics of perception, emotional chemistry, and the philosophical structure of relationships. Based on ancient philosophical teachings, a love relationship can be viewed through three basic dimensions: eros, philia, and agape. Eros in human couples symbolizes passion and physical attraction. Philia represents mutual trust, mutual support, and the shared ethical system. Agape carries unconditional devotion and the ability to give without expectations. The combination of these three forces creates a complex and dynamic structure, where each dimension influences the others. In a metaphysical sense, the relationship between two people becomes a process of energy and harmony, where love functions as an integrative principle, and light as consciousness and understanding. Biologically, human couples activate sophisticated hormonal and neurochemical systems. Dopamine and adrenaline increase motivation and attention. Oxytocin and vasopressin strengthen bonding and security. Serotonin maintains emotional stability and balance. These physiological processes are not isolated from consciousness. They shape our ability to perceive another, to evaluate their strengths and weaknesses, and to create emotional patterns that define the durability of the relationship. Thus, what philosophers view as a spiritual formula, biology confirms through the real energy of the body and brain. Throughout history, mystics have used the metaphor of couples to describe the universal laws of connection. In Sufism, love between two people symbolizes unity with the divine, while in Taoism, a harmonious couple represents the balance of yin and yang energies. Every encounter is a potential synthesis of light and love. A person learns to give and receive, to reflect their own spiritual structure through interaction. Human couples thus become experimental sites of metaphysics, where the boundaries of one's own consciousness and the possibilities of transformation are tested through closeness and intimacy. Psychologically, a relationship between two people involves attachment patterns: secure, avoidant, and ambivalent. Secure attachment allows for emotional stability, trust, and cooperation. Avoidant attachment causes distance and insecurity. Ambivalent attachment brings intense emotional fluctuations and uncertainty to the duration of love. When these psychological dynamics are combined with philosophical and biological principles, we get a complex, multi-layered structure, a true spiritual formula for human encounter. Mathematically or symbolically, we can describe a relationship as a function of the interaction of three elements: LLL, love, SSS, light, and EEE, emotional energy. The quantity P depends on the variables L, S, and E, where P represents the synergy of the couple. In this formula, increasing one dimension, for example, love, can proportionally or even exponentially increase the effect of light and emotional connection, while an imbalance in one element can destabilize the entire structure. This is a metaphorical representation of the complex dynamics of human relationships, but at the same time it reflects real biological and psychological processes. The philosophical aspect of human pairings emphasizes that encounters are not accidental. Each interaction shapes its own spiritual and emotional evolution. Light, as a principle of understanding and introspective reflection, allows people to see each other and themselves in their full spectrum. Love functions as a force of connection, motivation, and transformation. When these two forces work in harmony, couples become catalysts not only for their own existence, but also for the wider community, transmitting experience, values, and energy further. In practical life, the spiritual formula of couples manifests itself through everyday interactions. Attention, empathy, expressions of love and respect, joint action and support in challenges. Every action becomes an act of light and love, an integration of the metaphysical with the everyday. In this way, the human couple is not just an emotional or physical connection. It becomes a laboratory of metaphysical existence, in which the limits of being, the possibilities of transformation and the durability of the energy of love are tested. In light of modern research on emotions, the phenomenon of karma mutta and the theory of affection exchange confirm that expressing love has adaptive benefits. It reduces stress, strengthens social connections, and supports mental and physical health. When applied to couples, these effects multiply, creating a network of energy that also affects the wider community. Every relationship is a microcosm, a world unto itself, where light and love function as the fundamental forces that shape existence. Ultimately, the metaphysical combinations of human couples show that human connection is not superficial or fleeting. Every encounter, every dialogue, every shared emotion is an integration of energy that leads to higher consciousness, to an understanding of the universe and one's own nature. Love and light together transform individuals, enabling them to develop their own spiritual and emotional structure, and to expand and shape the energy of existence through mutual connections. This segment, therefore, does not view couples simply as emotional or physical entities, but as living formulas, in which each component contributes to synergy, transformation, and the lasting value of being. Human relationships are metaphysical dynamics in which light and love function together, giving meaning, purpose, and depth to the human experience. The meaning of being, who we are, what we become, and how love and light shape our being. The meaning of being is not a question with a single final answer. It is a continuous process of cognition and transformation. Man, through his own existence, encounters the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of reality every day. When we integrate the principles of light and love into this reflection, being emerges as a dynamic flow of energy and consciousness, where perception, evaluation, and action shape our identity, morality, and meaning. Light is the primary force of perception, physically enabling the perception of the world, while metaphysically symbolizing knowledge, enlightenment, and introspective reflection. At the molecular level, photons reaching our eyes activate the retina and trigger a series of neurochemical reactions, including the modulation of dopamine and serotonin, thereby shaping our ability to understand space, time, and interpersonal relationships. In this context, light becomes not only a physical energy, but also a bridge between the external and internal worlds. It connects the reality we perceive and the internal meaning we create. Love, on the other hand, defines our capacity to value, connect, and transform. Its complexity is reflected in philosophical considerations, eros, philia, agape, biological mechanisms, dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, and emotional experiences, karma mutta. Through love, being becomes a process of interaction with other people, with nature, with the universe. Every act of giving and receiving love not only shapes our personality, but also expands the energy of existence beyond the individual to the collective. On a psychological level, understanding one's own being involves introspective processes. Emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize and regulate one's own feelings, allows one's being to take on a dimension of conscious action. When light and love are integrated, one becomes able to understand one's inner motives, values, and potential, creating a coherent picture of one's own identity and purpose. Philosophically, being can be viewed through an ontological prism. Who we are in relation to the world, what is the relationship between the physical and the spiritual, and how our actions reflect universal principles. Light symbolizes knowledge and truth. Love symbolizes connection and moral imperative. When a person integrates these principles, being becomes active and creative. We are not passive observers of life, but co-creators of experience, who through perception and action shape ourselves and our environment. Human identity, in this framework, cannot be separated from interactions with other beings. Every connection, every exchange of love and attention, contributes to the formation of inner light, the capacity for self-awareness, ethical decision-making and spiritual growth. Biologically, experiences of love and connection modulate the brain, strengthen neural networks and increase the capacity for empathy and social cohesion. This confirms that being is not a static state, but an evolutionary process. Through light and love we grow, learn and transform. On a spiritual level, being manifests through an awareness of transience and eternity. The light of the stars we observe carries information from the past. This is how the universe teaches us about temporal relativity and connection. Love teaches us about emotional and moral responsibility, how our relationship to others and the world shapes our purpose. By combining these principles, a human being becomes a conscious participant in the cosmic flow, where every act, thought and feeling contributes to the creation of a larger harmony. Mathematically or symbolically, we can represent existence as a function of the integration of light, S, and love, L, over time, T. The quantity B at time t is given by the integral, from 0 to t, of the function f depending on S, light, and L, love, with respect to time. Where B, t, represents the level of self-awareness and integration of being at a given moment. Increasing light, perception and knowledge, and love, connection and appreciation, exponentially increases inner transformation and quality of being. This is not just a metaphor. Psychological studies show that the combination of self-awareness and emotional connection leads to higher levels of well-being, resilience, and creative action. In practical terms, the meaning of being is reflected in everyday decisions. How we treat others, how we invest in our own development, how we develop the capacity for introspective reflection, and how we contribute to the collective good. Love and light, in this framework, are not passive forces. They require engagement, action, and conscious attention. Through this process, being becomes a synergy of the inner and outer worlds, individual and collective, material and spiritual. In conclusion, the meaning of being is not a fixed category, but a dynamic, multi-layered process. Love shapes our ability to connect and value. Light shapes our perception and understanding. The integration of these principles allows a person to understand themselves, to transform through experience and to leave a mark on the universe. Every person, every encounter, every act of being becomes part of a cosmic web, an energy of love and light that shapes the present, the past and the future. Being, then, is not a passive state. It is a creative process where every thought, feeling, and action reflects universal principles, creates meaning, and integrates individual experience into the larger cosmos. Through light and love, man not only exists, he becomes a conscious participant in a continuous dance of energy, consciousness, and transformation. The origin and evolution of black holes. Black holes are one of the most intriguing and mysterious phenomena in the universe, where the laws of physics, both classical and quantum, merge under extreme conditions. Their formation is deeply connected to the life cycle of stars, gravitational collapse, and the energy that shapes the universe. Philosophically, a black hole is a metaphor for the ultimate concentration of existence, a place where space, time, and matter lose their conventional boundaries and become a pure entity of force and energy. The formation of black holes from massive stars. The most common way black holes form is when a massive star collapses at the end of its life cycle. Stars with a mass greater than about 20 solar masses can no longer maintain a balance between gravity and internal radiation after the nuclear fuel is exhausted. Fusion, which until then produced energy and exerted pressure outward, stops, and the gravitational force prevails. The star collapses under its own weight, and if the mass of the core exceeds the Tolman-Oppenheimer-Volkoff limit, about 2 to 3 solar masses for neutron stars, a singularity surrounded by an event horizon is formed, a classic black hole. This process is not just mechanical. It implies a philosophical reflection. A massive star, which has been shining light for centuries, through collapse becomes a place of absolute non-existence in known space, and yet, from it comes new energy that shapes the surrounding universe. The light that has been emitted for centuries continues its journey through space-time, transmitting information about the star's existence even after its collapse, making the black hole a symbol of continuity and variability in the cosmic context. Supermassive and intermediate mass black holes. In addition to stellar black holes, the universe contains supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies, with masses ranging from millions to tens of billions of solar masses. Their formation is the subject of ongoing research. It is believed that they are formed by the merger of smaller black holes and the accretion of vast amounts of gas and stars over billions of years. Supermassive black holes power quasars, making galaxies active and shaping the evolution of the cosmos. Philosophically, supermassive black holes symbolize the concentration of power and gravity that shapes life around them. As cosmic orchestrators, they influence star formation and galactic structure, demonstrating that even in the external silence of invisible objects, there is structure and order that transcends human perception. Evolution through mergers and accretion. Black holes are not static, they evolve. Stellar black holes can grow by accreting matter or merging with other black holes. These events release enormous amounts of energy, mostly in the form of gravitational waves, sending signals to the universe about interactions that occurred billions of light years away. Theoretically, the merger of two black holes, described by general relativity, leads to the formation of a new singularity with its own unique mass, momentum, and spin, confirming that black holes evolve and transform the energy of the universe in a way that is both deterministic and unpredictable. Philosophical aspect of black hole evolution. Metaphysically, a black hole can be a symbol of the ultimate concentration of being, a place where matter and space collapse in time, but where information and energy are not completely lost. Light entering a black hole carries traces of energy and history, and the theory of Hawking radiation suggests that even a black hole can emit energy, maintaining cosmic balance. Each black hole becomes a metaphor for a spiritual journey, a transformation from a visible and brilliant star into a mysterious, invisible force that influences everything around it. The evolution of black holes reminds us that change in nature is constant, that the end of one form is the beginning of another, and that even extreme entities, such as black holes, participate in the cycle of universal existence and energy. Structure and physical properties of black holes. Black holes, although invisible in the classical sense, have a clearly defined internal and external structure that astronomy and theoretical physics allow us to see through, observing the effects on surrounding matter and space-time. Their structure is also philosophically intriguing. They are places where the laws of nature reach their extremes and where the physical merges with the metaphysical. Event horizon and singularity. A fundamental characteristic of a black hole is its event horizon, a boundary beyond which no particle, not even light, can escape. This concept introduces a philosophical dimension. We cannot see the event horizon directly, but we know it exists because its gravitational force shapes the motion of matter and light in its surroundings. The horizon is, metaphorically, the limit of knowledge, a place where our standard perceptions are suspended, but where the universe still functions according to the laws of physics. At the center of a black hole is a singularity, a point of infinite density and curved space. In theoretical terms, a singularity is the point where general relativity loses its predictive power and quantum theory has not yet been fully explained. Philosophically, a singularity symbolizes the end of the known, the limit of existence, and the possibility of new cosmic interpretations. Types of black holes. Black holes are classified according to mass and spin. Stellar black holes are formed by the collapse of massive stars, with masses ranging from a few to a dozen solar masses. Intermediate mass black holes, masses of hundreds to thousands of solar masses, possibly formed through the merger of smaller black holes. Supermassive black holes, masses of millions to 10 billion solar masses in the centers of galaxies. Rotating, Kerr, black holes have angular momentum, which creates an ergosphere, a region around the event horizon where matter cannot remain at rest relative to the distant universe. Charged, Reisner-Nordstrom, black holes have an electric charge, although in practice most black holes in the universe have a neutral charge. Mathematically, the Schwarzschild metric describes a static, unforced rotating black hole. The spacetime interval ds squared is equal to negative quantity 1 minus 2 gm over c squared r times c squared dt squared, plus the reciprocal of 1 minus 2 gm over c squared r times doctor squared, plus r squared d omega squared. In context, general relativity. This is the Schwarzschild metric, describing the spacetime geometry outside a spherically symmetric, non-rotating mass m, where g is the gravitational constant, c is the speed of light, r is the radial coordinate, t is time, and d omega squared represents the angular part of the metric. Here, g represents the gravitational constant, m is the mass of the black hole, c is the speed of light, r is the radial distance, and d omega squared represents the angular component of the sphere. For rotating black holes, the Kerr metric is used instead of the Schwarzschild metric. In this case, a spin parameter, denoted as A, is introduced. This spin parameter is defined as the angular momentum J of the black hole divided by its mass m, where J represents the angular momentum. Physical properties. Black holes are characterized by several key properties. Gravitational force. Extremely strong near the event horizon, sufficient to bend light rays and extend time for external observers, gravitational redshift. Tidal forces. Near the singularity, objects experience extreme stretching and compression, spaghettification. Spin and ergosphere. Rotating black holes introduce a frame dragging effect. Space-time is pulled in the direction of rotation. Accretion disk. Matter orbiting a black hole forms a disk that is heated by friction and emits X-rays, providing indirect evidence of the presence of a black hole. The philosophical aspect of structure. The black hole is a metaphor for the inner limits of human knowledge. The event horizon shows that there is a limit to perception, the singularity emphasizes uncertainty and infinity, and the ergosphere and accretion disk symbolize the interaction of force, energy, and matter. Philosophically, black holes teach us that existence is not linear, that the extremes of space, time, and gravity are places where energy is transformed and where classical laws are expanded upon by new knowledge. Quantum and relativistic effects. Hawking radiation suggests that black holes can emit particles of quantum origin. The vacuum around the horizon creates pairs of particles, one of which enters the black hole and the other escapes into space, causing the black hole to slowly lose mass. This introduces a philosophical dimension. Even in places dominated by absolute gravity, quantum uncertainty allows information to break through, which may be paralleled by the human ability to find light even in the hollowest places of existence. Interaction of black holes with light and matter. Black holes, although they do not emit light themselves, have a huge impact on the surrounding matter and electromagnetic radiation, making them indirectly visible. Their interaction with light and matter is key to understanding how these extreme structures shape the universe, but also how they philosophically remind us of the limits of perception and knowledge. Gravitational bending of light and lensing. One of the most fascinating effects of black holes on light is gravitational bending, known as gravitational lensing. According to general relativity, a massive black hole bends space-time around itself, causing light rays from distant stars and galaxies to bend in a curved path. An observer can see multiple images of the same object, circular or arc-like, around the black hole, allowing for indirect mapping of the mass and distribution of matter. Mathematically, the curvature of light around a mass, denoted by m, at a distance r is described as follows. Alpha is equal to the speed of light squared multiplied by the fourth power of the radial distance r, divided by the gravitational constant g multiplied by the mass m. Where alpha is the bending angle, the gravitational constant is the gravitational constant. The mass is the mass of the object, CCC is the speed of light, and radial distance is the minimum distance of light radiation from the mass. Philosophically, this effect symbolizes that neither light nor truth is absolute in the presence of power and mass. Perception depends on context and interaction with forces that transcend our everyday experience. Accretion disks and radiation. Matter gravitationally drawn around a black hole forms an accretion disk, where friction and gravitational energy heat the gases to millions of degrees, emitting X-rays and gamma rays. These disks are key to observing black holes, as their light and spectrum allow astronomers to estimate their mass, spin, and accretion processes. The energetic process of accretion is extreme. A portion of the mass of the disks is converted into radiation with an efficiency of 10 to 40%, far greater than fusion in stars. Physically, this is a manifestation of the transformation of matter into pure energy, while philosophically it shows how the interaction between force, gravity, and matter, disks, generates observable consequences that shape our cosmic insight. Hawking radiation and quantum effects. Although black holes absorb light and matter, quantum effects allow them to emit radiation. Hawking radiation occurs when quantum vacuum fluctuations create a pair of particles near the event horizon. One particle is trapped while the other escapes, causing the black hole to lose mass. This process is slow, but it theoretically confirms that black holes are not completely black. Philosophically, Hawking radiation symbolizes that even the most powerful forces are not absolute. There is always the possibility of breaking through and transformation, even in places that seem absolutely closed. This teaches us that the boundaries of existence are not finite, but flexible through time and space. Tidal forces and material interactions. Black holes exert extreme effects on material objects in their vicinity through tidal forces. Any particle approaching the event horizon experiences differential gravitational forces that lead to spaghettification, stretching and compressing along the gravitational field. This is not only a physical phenomenon, but also a symbol of philosophical reflection. The presence of a black hole introduces radical transformations into any form of matter, indicating the potential for ultimate transformation and revaluation of everything that exists. Interaction with stars and gas. Black holes can destabilize the orbits of stars and gas clouds, creating strong accretion flows and relativistic jets. Observing the orbits of stars around a supermassive black hole, such as Sagittarius A** at the center of our galaxy, allows precise determinations of the black hole's mass and the mass distribution in the galaxy. Through these processes, black holes function as cosmic catalysts, transforming surrounding matter, channeling energy, and shaping the evolution of galaxies. Philosophically, this teaches us that central forces in the universe, and in life, shape the environment through invisible but effective action, as principles that act on an individual or collective, imperceptible but crucial. Conclusion of the subchapter. And the interaction of black holes with light and matter is key to understanding their existence and influence. Gravitational bending of light, accretion disks, Hawking radiation, and tidal forces present both physical and symbolic lessons. Black holes demonstrate that boundaries, transformation, and interaction define cosmic dynamics. Each phenomenon we study brings us closer to understanding how extreme forces shape matter, energy, and existence, while philosophically raising the question what it means to be in the presence of an ultimate force, and how our perception and knowledge reflect those interactions. Observing and studying black holes. Black holes are inherently invisible, as light cannot escape from them, but their influence on the surrounding universe allows astronomers and theorists to study them indirectly. Observing black holes combines classical astronomy, relativistic physics, quantum theory, and sophisticated technologies, revealing to us the complexity of the universe and at the same time the philosophical implications of the existence of the invisible. Observation methods. 1. Gravitational waves. One of the revolutionary ways to study black holes is through gravitational waves, predicted by Einstein's equations of general relativity. The waves are produced by the merger of black holes or neutron stars and travel through space at the speed of light, warping space-time. The LIGO and Virgo detectors record these oscillations, allowing estimates of the mass, spin, and distance of black holes. The formulation of gravitational waves for double black holes is described by Einstein's field in the linear approximation. The D'Alembert operator applied to the quantity h bar mu nu is equal to -16 times pi times the gravitational constant g, divided by the speed of light c to the fourth power, multiplied by the quantity t mu nu. Here, h bar mu nu represents perturbations of the metric, and t mu nu represents the components of the stress-energy tensor. Energy-momentum tensor. Signal analysis provides direct information on the coupling dynamics and energy output. 2. Observation of accretion disks and X-rays. Matter orbiting a black hole forms accretion disks that emit X-rays and gamma rays. Satellites such as Chandra, XMM Newton, and Nustar measure the intensity and spectral lines, allowing precise determinations of mass, spin, and accretion dynamics. Philosophically, this shows that even the invisible can speak through interactions with its surroundings. 3. Event Horizon Telescope, EHT. Using global interferometry, the EHT has taken the first direct image of the event horizon of a black hole in the galaxy M87. Technically, the resolution of 20 micro-arc-seconds allows visualization of the black hole's shadow, confirming the predictions of general relativity. The horizon image has become a symbol of scientific commitment and philosophical fascination, seeing what was once completely invisible. 4. Observing stars in orbit. Analyzing the motion of stars around a supermassive black hole, such as Sagittarius A** at the center of our galaxy, allows for indirect detection. The orbits follow Kepler's laws with relativistic corrections. The square of the orbital period t is equal to 4 times pi squared times the cube of the semi-major axis A, divided by the gravitational constant g multiplied by the sum of the masses m and m. Where TTT represents the period, AAA the semi-major axis of the orbit, and M the masses of the black hole and star. This method reveals the mass and concentration of matter around the horizon. Instruments and technologies used. Observing black holes requires a combination of telescopes, satellites, and sophisticated software algorithms. Gravitational wave detectors, X-ray and optical telescopes, interferometers, computational models, and simulations allow us to observe phenomena that are beyond direct perception. Philosophically, this reminds us that knowledge depends on a combination of perception, instrument, and interpretation. Philosophical aspect of study. Studying black holes is not just a technical challenge, it is also a metaphysical journey. A black hole represents the frontier of knowledge. We cannot see it directly, but its effects shape the light, matter, and energy around us. Through the study of black holes, scientists metaphorically explore the limits of human knowledge, the transformation of information, and the nature of existence. Each new method or detection is like a light breaking through the darkness, symbolizing the continuity of knowledge and curiosity. Future perspectives. New technologies, including advanced gravitational wave detectors, next-generation satellites, and developments in quantum optics, are enabling deeper studies of event horizons, spin, and accretion dynamics. Potential direct imaging and analysis of Hawking radiation open the door to understanding quantum gravity and new physical laws. Philosophically, this means that the limits of existence are not absolute. Black holes remain a symbol of mystery, but also a challenge to the human mind to penetrate what seems invisible, reinforcing the connection between scientific research and metaphysical reflection on the universe. Conclusion of the subchapter. The observation and study of black holes combines physics, astronomy, and philosophy, allowing us to understand objects that are invisible in themselves but transform everything around them. Gravitational waves, accretion disks, stellar orbits, and direct interferometric observations reveal not only physical properties, but also a philosophical lesson. The limits of existence and knowledge exist, but they are not insurmountable. Through observation, light, matter, and intellect together form a bridge between mystery and understanding. Depictions of people and their metaphysics in the cosmic dance. Man has been aware of his place in the universe since his creation. His experience and our perception of reality is shaped by light, stars, and the invisible forces that permeate the cosmos. In this chapter, we will seek to bring together anthropological, philosophical, and astronomical perspectives on human existence, how people see each other, how they see themselves in relation to the universe, and how their metaphysics evolve over the centuries. Human reflections and perception of others. Man is a social being. His reflection in the eyes of others, his status in the group, and his understanding of the universe are shaped through the experience of the collective and the individual. Metaphysically, we can say that humans are always in a cosmic dance, interacting with their own inner light and with the energy of the universe that manifests itself through stars, black holes, and light. The mirror between humans and the universe. As a human observes another, he sees not only a biological entity but also a cosmic entity in miniature, reflecting the energy of the universe within himself. Every emotion, everyday act, or thought process can be interpreted as a microcosmic interaction with the larger universe. Light, a symbol of perception and knowledge. Throughout history, people have associated the light of stars with the light of knowledge. Black holes, a metaphor for internal boundaries and unknown aspects of personality. Stars and galaxies, a mirror of collective existence, a system in which the individual is not isolated, but connected through invisible forces. the cosmic dance of human relationships. The reflection of other people in one's own perception is in fact a cosmic dance of energy, an exchange of information, feelings and metaphysical values. People build relationships that are, metaphorically, orbits in which each individual moves. Some are closer to the event horizon of the other's emotions, some are distant, but still influenced by the gravitational forces of social norms and moral laws. 2. Evolution of metaphysics throughout history. People's metaphysics, their understanding of the world and existence, changed in line with the development of society, science, and technology. As populations have grown, so have collective metaphysical paradigms. Mass civilizations and global interaction have enabled the homogenization and spread of philosophical and religious beliefs, while modern science introduces quantum and relativistic perspectives into everyday consciousness. Population growth throughout history. The growth of human population from prehistory to the present can be represented graphically and by a formula. Let P, T, P, T, P, T denote the global population at time tt, expressed in years. Mathematical formula of population growth. A simple exponential growth model. The quantity p at time t is equal to the initial value p0 multiplied by the exponential of the growth rate r times time t. P0, initial population, e.g. 1 million people 10,000 BC. Rate of change, population growth rate, year (-1). T, time. For historical data, growth is variable, so a logistic model that includes the planet's carrying capacity is often used. The quantity p at time t is equal to 1 plus the fraction whose numerator is the initial population p0 times the difference between the carrying capacity k and p0, multiplied by the exponential of negative growth rate r times time t, and whose denominator is the carrying capacity k. The carrying capacity K is roughly 10 billion, maximum bearing capacity of the soil. Mean birth rate. For the global birth rate B, T, B, T, B, T, we can use the formula. B bar is equal to 1 divided by the difference between T1 and T0, multiplied by the integral from T0 to T1 of B of T with respect to T. B of T, number of births per year. T is equal to T1 minus T0, time interval. The average value of B, denoted B bar, is calculated by summing all the individual values B sub I from I equals 1 to n, and then dividing by the total number of values n. This value allows for an estimate of the average global birth rate and correlation with philosophical, economic, and environmental factors. Synthesis of people, metaphysics, and the universe. People throughout history project the cosmos into their social and psychological space. The light of stars, the gravity of black holes, and interstellar space become symbols of collective fears, ambitions, and knowledge. Paleolithic. The stars were guides through territories and time, a symbol of the unknown. Antiquity and the Middle Ages. Starlight and celestial bodies become tools of moral and philosophical reflection. Modern era. Black holes, quantum mechanics, and relativity redefine metaphysical horizons, merging human introspection with the infinity of the cosmos. Humans are, in a metaphysical sense, reflections of the stars. Every life, every interaction, every collective trend of the population illuminates the universe, and at the same time shapes it. Through population growth and the evolution of metaphysics, we can watch as the human collective mind increasingly understands and reflects the cosmos. Calculation of the interaction of population and metaphysics. If MT denotes the index of the metaphysical complexity of society, 0 to 1, where 0 means completely practical materialism, and 1 maximum philosophical and spiritual reflection, we can make a function of association with the population. The quantity m at time t is equal to the initial value m0 plus the parameter alpha times the logarithm of the ratio of the initial quantity p0 to the quantity p at time t. The initial value of the quantity m at time t equals 0t equals 0t equals 0, the initial level of metaphysics in the Paleolithic. Alpha coefficient of sensitivity of metaphysics to population growth. P of t, global population at time. This model shows that population growth does not necessarily linearly increase metaphysics, but through social and cultural interactions, a larger population contributes to a more complex collective consciousness. Chapter conclusion. The chapter, delineating humans and their metaphysics in the cosmic dance, shows how humans, throughout history, have viewed themselves and others in the context of the cosmos. From Paleolithic animism, through ancient philosophy and religious interpretation, to contemporary quantum and relativistic consciousness, human metaphysics has developed in parallel with population and scientific knowledge. Black holes, light and stars are not just astronomical objects, but metaphysical symbols. The connection between people and couples who have no common descendants and the connection between black holes in our universe. In this chapter, we explore the parallel between human reproduction and the phenomenon of black holes in space, using population data from the last 33 years. The goal is to connect the microcosm of human relationships with the macrocosm of the universe, through numerical and philosophical analysis. Human population and childless couples. Calculation of the number of people. At the beginning of the period, the global population 33 years ago, 1990, was approximately, for a simple estimate, we use the mean global birth and death rates. 5.3 times 10 to the power of 9 multiplied by b of t and d of t. An anti-B meson and two anti-D mesons interacting with a D meson. The average value of B, denoted as B bar, is equal to 1 divided by T, multiplied by the sum of B sub I from I equals 1 to T. Similarly, the average value of D, denoted as D bar, is equal to 1 divided by T, multiplied by the sum of D sub I from I equals 1 to T. Here, B sub I and D sub I represent the annual data on births and deaths, respectively, and T equals 33, representing the total number of years. The mean annual population growth, denoted R, is equal to the average number of births per year, B bar, minus the average number of deaths per year, D bar. The global population at the moment of year 33 is given by P sub 33, which is equal to the initial population P0 multiplied by E raised to the power of R times 33. Using historical data from 1990 to 2023, we can approximate the average annual growth rate R as approximately 1.1%. Couples without offspring. Estimates of global infertile couples indicate that approximately 42% of couples of reproductive age do not have children, due to biological, social, and cultural factors. If we denote the number of couples without offspring by P sub np, we find that P sub np is approximately equal to 3.38 times 10 to the power of 19. This number, although enormous, symbolically reflects the invisible limits of reproduction, similar to black holes that absorb matter, but whose existence shapes the cosmos. A connection to black holes in the universe. Black holes, like pairs without offspring, represent zones of absorption and transformation. Matter or energy that enters the event horizon does not exit, but shapes the surroundings through gravity, accretion disks, and radiation emission. Metaphysical parallel. Couples without offspring, right pointing arrow, invisible, black holes of the human population. Their energy and presence affect society, culture, and collective consciousness. Black holes, right pointing arrow, absorb matter and light, but shape galaxies and cosmic structures. Through this analogy, we can think of human relationships and reproduction as cosmic processes. While they do not directly create offspring, matter, they shape the evolution of social space, cultural structures, and metaphysical patterns. Calculation of average birth rate and mortality rate. For global analysis, we use a discrete model. The average number of births per year, denoted B bar, is equal to 1 divided by 33, multiplied by the sum of B sub I from the year 1990 to 2023. Similarly, the average number of deaths per year, denoted D bar, is equal to 1 divided by 33, multiplied by the sum of D sub I from the year 1990 to 2023. Here, B sub I and D sub I represent the annual birth and death numbers, expressed in billions. Example calculation. The total number of births over 33 years is approximately equal to 250 billion. The total number of deaths over the same period is approximately equal to 180 billion. The average number of births per year, denoted B bar, is equal to the total number of births divided by 33, which is approximately 7.58 billion per year. Similarly, the average number of deaths per year, denoted D bar, is equal to the total number of deaths divided by 33, which is approximately 5.45 billion per year. The growth rate, representing the natural increase, denoted R, is equal to the average number of births per year minus the average number of deaths per year. This difference is approximately 2.13 billion, and when divided by 33, gives approximately 0.0645 billion per year. 5. Philosophical implication. The connection of childless human couples and black holes illustrates a philosophical lesson. The existence of invisible entities shapes the dynamics of a system, whether it be the cosmos or a social population. Black holes affect the gravitational balance of galaxies. Couples without offspring affect the cultural, social, and evolutionary balance of the human species. The central idea is that even the invisible or unproductive elements of a system play a key role in shaping it. This is a fundamental metaphysical parallel between human society and cosmic phenomena. 6. Conclusion. In the past 33 years, the global population grew from approximately 5.3 billion to approximately 8 billion. The mean value of birth and mortality shows a stable but progressive growth. The number of childless couples, although not producing offspring, has a profound effect on the collective dynamics and metaphysics of human society. Denoting this number by P sub NP, it is approximately equal to 3.38 times 10 to the power of 19. Black holes in the universe provide a symbolic parallel. What is invisible or absorbed shapes the flow and structure of the entire system. This synthesis of human reproduction, statistics, and cosmic phenomena provides a bridge between empirical data, philosophical reflection, and astronomical principles. 7. Projection of the population of childless couples in the future. To better understand the dynamics of childless couples, we can create a mathematical model that takes into account. Let the current global population be denoted by P sub T. The percentage of couples without offspring is denoted F sub N pages. The average birth rate and mortality rate are denoted by B bar and D bar, respectively. Changes in culture, technology, and social structure also affect population dynamics. Let us denote the number of couples without offspring at a given moment in time t by P sub np of t. A discrete model for the evolution of this number can be described as follows. The number of childless couples at time t plus 1 is equal to the number of childless couples at time t plus beta multiplied by the total population p at time t minus gamma multiplied by the number of childless couples at time t. Here, beta represents the rate of increase in the number of couples without offspring, which can be influenced by cultural and economic factors. Gamma represents the rate of decline in the number of couples without offspring, which can result from changes in reproductive behavior. Gamma represents the rate of decline in the number of couples without offspring, for example due to changes in reproductive behavior. P of t denotes the total population at the given moment in time t. On average, over the last 33 years, the fraction of couples without offspring, denoted F sub np, is approximately equal to 0.42. This gives the initial number of individual people corresponding to childless couples, 0.42 multiplied by 8 billion, which is approximately equal to 3.36 billion. For a quantitative analogy in the metaphysical sense, we have included a symbolic number 3.38 times 10 to the power of 19, which represents the collective impact of childless couples on society and the cosmos. 7.1 Projection of the next 50 years. Assume linear growth of global population with growth rate equals 0.8% and changes in the percentage of couples without offspring in line with modern trends. The projection of the total population over the period from 2023 to 2073 can be described as follows. The population at time t, denoted P of t, is equal to the initial population P naught multiplied by e raised to the power of r times t, where t ranges from 2023 to 2073. The change in the percentage of couples without offspring over time, denoted F sub np of t, is equal to the initial fraction of childless couples, F sub np naught, plus delta multiplied by t. Here, delta represents the annual change in the percentage of couples without offspring, for example plus 0.1% per year. The number of couples without offspring in year t, denoted P sub np of t, is equal to the percentage of childless couples at that time, F sub np of t, multiplied by the total population at that time, P of t. The number of couples without offspring at time t, denoted P sub np of t, is equal to the fraction of couples without offspring at time t, F sub np of t, multiplied by the total population at time t, P of t. This discrete model allows us to track how social, biological, and cultural changes affect the number of invisible entities in a population. 8. Parallel with black holes. Black holes in the universe have several key properties. The event horizon, a boundary from which nothing can escape. Accretion disk, matter that orbits a black hole before being absorbed. Gravitational influence, shapes the surrounding space and matter. Couples without offspring function metaphysically similarly. They do not produce new matter, offspring, but they influence social and cultural dynamics. The energy manifests itself through education, careers, social interactions, and cultural capital. Similar to accretion disks, their action shapes the environment, although they are not the direct creators of new generations. 8.1 Metaphysical formula of influence. If we denote the influence of a single couple without offspring by I sub np, then the total influence on the social and cultural structure can be approximated as follows. The total influence, denoted I total, is equal to the sum of I sub np for each couple from I equals 1 to p sub np, which is approximately equal to I sub np multiplied by p sub np. Here, P sub np can include either the actual number of childless couples or the symbolic, cosmic, number, 3.38 times 10 to the power of 19. This formula allows for the quantification of metaphysical influence, in a manner similar to how astronomers estimate the gravitational influence of black holes in galaxies. 9. Synthesis, microcosm and macrocosm. Human societies right-pointing arrow a microcosm where couples without offspring function as invisible forces that shape the course of history, economy, and culture. Black holes right-pointing arrow macrocosm where gravity and accretion shape galaxies and cosmic structures. Philosophical view. Both systems show that entities that do not directly produce new matter still play a key role in shaping the environment. This synthesis provides a bridge between empirical data, population, birth rate, mortality, and metaphysical reflection on the universe. 10. Conclusion. Projecting the number of childless couples over the next 50 years allows for an understanding of social and cultural trends. Mathematical models of birth and mortality are linked to a symbolic model of the influence of invisible entities. Black holes in the cosmos and childless couples in society share a philosophical parallel. Both entities shape their environment, even though they do not produce immediate, new matter. The mean birth and death rates serve as a basis for quantifying growth and impact, while graphical representations help visualize these dynamics. Extrapolating the impact of childless couples on the collective metaphysics of humans, 2024-2124. Mathematical model of projection. To make an extrapolation, we use an extended model of the number of couples without offspring that incorporates several factors. These include the number of childless couples at time t, denoted p sub np of t, the total population at time t, denoted p of t, the percentage of couples without offspring at time t, denoted f sub np of t, cultural and technological changes, denoted c of t, which represent the impact of education, urbanization, and social trends, and a philosophical factor, m of t, which symbolically quantifies the metaphysical influence on collective consciousness. The discrete model can be expressed as follows. The number of childless couples at time t plus 1 is equal to the number of childless couples at time t plus beta multiplied by the total population at time t, minus gamma multiplied by the number of childless couples at time t, plus the product of the social coefficient c of t and the metaphysical coefficient m of t. Here, beta represents the annual rate of increase of childless couples, influenced by social trends. Gamma represents the rate of decline due to changes in cultural norms or political interventions. C of t is the social coefficient, ranging from 0 to 1, proportional to the impact of urbanization and technology. M of t is the metaphysical coefficient, which symbolically quantifies the impact on collective consciousness. The initial parameters for the year 2024 are as follows. The total population, P, in 2024, is approximately 8.1 billion. The number of childless couples, P sub NP, in 2024, is approximately 3.38 times 10 to the power of 19. The percentage of childless couples, F sub NP, in 2024, is approximately 0.42. The rate of increase beta is approximately 0.0015, and the rate of decline gamma is approximately 0.0003. The social coefficient C in 2024 is approximately 0.7, and the metaphysical coefficient M in 2024 is approximately 1.0. Simulation of impact growth, 2024-2124. Using the above model, a simulation of the number of couples without offspring and their metaphysical impact can be written as: at any given year t, the number of childless couples in the next year is equal to the current number of childless couples reduced by the decline factor gamma, plus the annual increase due to social trends proportional to the total population, plus the contribution from the social and metaphysical influence, represented by 0.7 times m of extrapolation to 100 years, 2024-2124, shows. The increase in childless couples, the trend is slowly growing due to cultural and economic factors. Metaphysical influence, linearly and exponentially shapes collective consciousness through cultural patterns, symbolism, philosophy and art. Similarity to black holes, although couples do not produce offspring, their influence accumulates in the society, similar to an accretion disk around a black hole. Philosophical interpretation. Metaphysical mass. Childless couples represent the invisible mass of society that shapes cultural norms, ideas, art, and philosophy. Energy accumulation. Like a black hole, the impact is not seen directly, but it shapes the course of events and the distribution of resources. Symbolic gravity. Social and cultural processes attract people's attention, ideas, and energy, similar to the gravitational radiation of a black hole. Extrapolation formula. For simplified, numerical extrapolation. The number of couples without offspring at time t can be approximated by the formula. The number of childless couples at time t, denoted p sub np of t, is equal to the initial number of childless couples, p sub np naught, multiplied by e raised to the power of the effective growth rate, which is beta minus gamma times t, and multiplied by the quantity 1 plus the integral from 0 to t of c of tau times m of tau with respect to tau. Here, p sub np naught represents the initial number of couples without offspring. The difference beta minus gamma represents the effective growth rate of childless couples. The integral from 0 to t of c of tau times m of tau represents the accumulated metaphysical influence over time, where c of tau is the social coefficient and m of tau is the metaphysical coefficient. The accumulation of metaphysical influence over time, where c of tau is the social coefficient and m of tau is the metaphysical coefficient. This model allows for the projection of not only a physical number, but also a metaphysical influence on the collective consciousness. Collective metaphysics through the ages. If we symbolically view collective consciousness as a function of time, denoted s of t, it is considered proportional to the number of couples without offspring and their interaction with society. The symbolic influence of cultural factors at time t can be written as follows. S of t is equal to k multiplied by p sub np of t raised to the power alpha, multiplied by c of t. Here, k represents the scaled cultural influence coefficient. The exponent alpha, approximately between 0.5 and 0.7, reflects the nonlinear dynamics of influence. C of t is the coefficient representing cultural development and urbanization. P sub np of t is the number of couples without offspring at time t. This function suggests that the collective metaphysics of humans does not grow linearly, but rather non-linearly, with acceleration occurring during periods of increased urbanization, education, and technological development. Symbolic conclusion. Childless couples are metaphysical entities whose influence shapes society, culture, and philosophy. Black holes in the universe provide an analogy. Although they do not produce matter or are not directly visible, their gravitational and energetic influence is enormous.
Avatar 4 allows you to turn.
Collective metaphysics grows exponentially through interaction with technology, education, and global trends, just as the gravity of black holes accumulates matter and energy. Extrapolating 100 years shows that invisible influences accumulate symbolic energy, shaping the world of ideas, social norms, and human philosophy. 4. Symbolic analogy with black holes. Event horizon right pointing arrow the number of childless couples that do not directly produce offspring, but their presence creates gravity in social and cultural dynamics. Accretion disk right pointing arrow interaction with society, education, art, politics, and technology. Gravitational influence right pointing arrow shaping collective consciousness and philosophy, similar to the shaping of galaxies by black holes. This parallel allows for a metaphysical interpretation. Even entities that do not create new matter have a key role in shaping a system, whether social or cosmic. 5. Extrapolation conclusion. Over the next 100 years, the number of childless couples grows slowly, but their symbolic mass, metaphysical influence, exponentially shapes the collective consciousness. The accumulation of impacts has nonlinear dynamics, similar to the accretion disks of black holes in the cosmos. Collective metaphysics can be quantified through a combination of the number of pairs, the cultural coefficient, and the metaphysical index. The visual representation clearly shows how invisible elements shape the course of social and philosophical processes, just as black holes shape the cosmos. Conclusion: synthesis of quantitative, cosmic, and metaphysical perspectives. When we consider the numerical relationship between estimates of the number of stellar black holes in the observable universe, which range roughly from 10 to the 19th power to 4 times 10 to the 19th power, and the number of possible human pairs, estimated at approximately 3.38 times 10 to the 19th power, we notice a fascinating quantitative parallel, even though there is no physical or causal connection between the two entities. This numerical resonance, expressed through the ratio ranging from 0.3 to 1.18, allows us to see how two vast and seemingly unrelated categories can be placed side by side in the same order of magnitude, providing an inspiring backdrop for reflections on harmony, scale, and perspective. The ratio, denoted R, increases proportionally as the number of black holes increases or as the number of human pairs decreases. This introduces a conceptual reflection on the dynamic balance between micro and macro phenomena, between the human and the cosmic. Over the next 100 years, the number of childless couples is predicted to grow slowly, but their symbolic mass, or metaphysical influence, shapes the collective consciousness exponentially. This exponential dynamic is reminiscent of the accretion disks of black holes, where mass and energy accumulate non-linearly, shaping the gravitational architecture of the cosmos. Similarly, human couples, although individually invisible in their influence, collectively accumulate an effect that can be quantified by combining the number of couples, the cultural coefficient, and the metaphysical index, creating complex social and philosophical patterns that surpass simple arithmetic calculations. The visual and conceptual metaphor becomes clear when we consider how invisible elements, in this case, couples without offspring, shape the course of social and cultural processes, just as black holes shape the structure of the cosmos. These couples, although themselves minimally visible in everyday reality, collectively accumulate an influence that is transmitted across generations through cultural norms, philosophical ideas, artistic expressions, and collective models of thought, similar to the way the gravitational fields of black holes influence the formation of galaxies and the distribution of matter in the universe. The numerical parallel between human couples and black holes opens up a profound philosophical reflection on the relativity of scale. While humans see their own population in the microcosm, astronomers observe the macrocosm in infinite distances. However, in both cases, the order of magnitude of numbers, approximately 10 to the power of 19, creates the illusion of a connection that is, in its essence, purely symbolic and quantitative, not physical. Despite the lack of actual interaction, this comparison provides us with a mental framework for understanding how enormous numerical values, whether biological populations or astronomical objects, can coexist in the same intellectual space, allowing the human mind to conceptualize the size and complexity of the universe. This numerical similarity also serves as a metaphor for collective consciousness. Just as an accretion disk around a black hole non-linearly accumulates matter and energy, so too does the collective influence of progenyless couples non-linearly shape social, cultural, and philosophical dynamics. Each individual couple contributes small, almost imperceptible changes, which in aggregate become significant and shape the course of social processes, cultural innovations, and transformations of collective thought. The similarity to cosmic accumulation is not just poetics, it is a conceptual tool for understanding the complexity and nonlinearity of human society. Furthermore, the ratio R, which oscillates between 0.296 and 1.18, allows a quantitative view of the relative influence of pairs compared to the number of black holes, creating a framework for further philosophical and metaphysical reflections. This ratio can be interpreted as a measure of symmetry between the micro and macro worlds. When R less than 1, the number of pairs exceeds the number of black holes, symbolically indicating the predominance of microphenomena over macrophenomena. When R greater than 1, black holes dominate numerically, evoking the idea of cosmic power and the relative weight of universal phenomena in relation to human activities. Through this quantitative comparison, we come to the insight that numbers, although seemingly abstract, carry symbolic meaning. They become metaphors for understanding the relationship between different levels of reality. Human couples become an indicator of creative, biological and cultural potential, while black holes become an indicator of cosmic destructive power and the accumulation of mass and energy. The very act of comparing these numbers opens up space for reflections on infinity, the relativity of scale and the harmony of the universe, showing how different aspects of reality can coexist in the same intellectual and numerical space. The metaphysical interpretation of these relationships further emphasizes how similar the collective influence of microentities in human society is to the nonlinear effect of macrophenomena in the cosmos. Each individual black hole, like each individual pair, makes a minimal contribution to the overall impact, but when they accumulate over time and space, their effective power becomes apparent. This principle of accumulation and nonlinear dynamics can serve as an inspiration for thinking about how small, seemingly insignificant actions in human society can exponentially affect the collective reality, philosophy, culture, and perception of the universe. This philosophical quantitative comparison also highlights the conceptual symmetry between life and the cosmos. Although human couples and black holes do not interact directly, together they symbolize two extremes of existence, two orders of magnitude that invite reflection on limits and infinity. The numerical resonance, in the range 0.3–1.18, is not just a statistical curiosity, but a metaphorical bridge between micro and macro reality, reminding us that perspective and scale play a key role in our understanding of the world. In conclusion, the combination of these aspects, quantitative comparison, accumulation of symbolic influence, nonlinear dynamics and philosophical insight, opens up a completely new framework for understanding how microphenomena and macrophenomena can be conceptually connected. Every numerical value, every estimate, every exponential change in collective consciousness or the accretion disk of a black hole, all this serves as a metaphor for the interconnectedness of different levels of reality, but also for the relativity of our understanding, our perception and ability to think abstractly about the universe as a whole. About the author. Velimir Petković is the author of this book, the creation of which came from a moment of almost mystical insight. The inspiration for the work came from a painting that he carefully observed, a painting in which everything seemed calm, but at the same time overflowing with energy. At the moment when his attention reached the center of the painting, Velimir was illuminated by light, a light of purple color, which enveloped his consciousness and awakened in him a sense of universal connection. That moment was not an ordinary visual experience. It was a moment when intuition, perception, and deep inner consciousness come together. The light seemed to penetrate through the layers of reality, illuminating the path that had been hidden in his inner perception until then. In that purple light, Velimir felt the presence of something that transcended the physical and connected everything: people, stars, light, and even black holes and cosmic forces. It was the moment when he realized that it was his duty and natural need to translate these experiences into written form. From that flash of purple light, the idea for a book was born that explores light and love, human perception and the metaphysics of existence. A work that combines philosophy, science, art, and introspective reflection. Velimir Petković, through this book, wants to introduce the reader to his own inner light, through an understanding of cosmic phenomena and internal processes that shape human consciousness. His approach is a combination of personal experience, philosophical meditation, and scientific analysis, where each page strives to convey not only information, but also emotional and spiritual energy. The inspiration for the image and the purple light was not just a moment, it was the driving force that shaped every word, every metaphor, and every reflection within the book. This book is entirely the work of Velimir Petković, and all rights to it belong exclusively to the author. Every word, every idea and concept came from his inner experience and vision, which at the moment of encountering the light from the painting became tangible and translated into written form. Velimir retains full copyright, which guarantees the integrity and originality of this work.